Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Toastmasters all,
Yay!
and especially our Toastmaster Victoria. Storytelling is an art form, an ancient art form that is rarely used today. Before the written word, there was only storytelling. That's all there was. To be preserved, these stories had to be relevant, they had to be interesting, and they had to be understood. How do you do that? First off, it has to be your story. Because if it's your story, you don't have to remember the speech. You have to worry about forgetting something that you want to say. If you're memorizing the speech, all you're thinking about is, what am I going to say? If it's your speech, if it's your story, you've already lived it. You just have to tell the story. When you're telling it, remember the emotion. Think of the emotion. Is it happy or sad? Is it joyous or tragic? Remember what it was. If this story is not yours, if you're going to tell a story that you did not live, then make it your story. Maybe you read up a little bit about it. What was it like? Was it the past? Is it contemporary? Is it the future? Whatever that story is, make it your story. You can do that with a costume. That often works if it's appropriate. Be careful of accents, because not everybody can carry an accent throughout the whole story. Or you might even get it wrong. You might be thinking, I'm going to tell a Scottish story. And someone says, oh, that's Irish. Or that's Australian. No, that's not Australian, that's New Zealand. Be careful of accents. It can help, but it can also destroy the story. Think of the surroundings that the story takes place. Think of the people, what they were like back then. Step into their shoes, walk into their moccasins, walk a mile. What is it they did? Then you make it your story. You are now there. You are now them. And of course, there's all the things we learn in Toastmasters. Vocal variety. If the character is loud and bombastic, then be loud and bombastic. If the person is timid, even shy, then imitate that. All these make the speech, the story, your story, just that much more interesting and just that much more memorable. As ancient people used to do around the campfire in front of an auditorium or in a Greek theater, they make it memorable. And of course, there's body language. If you want to show that you love something, it's here. If you're angry and upset, you're like this. Remember that there's another part to where you can put your hands. It's above your head. It was a joyous evening. Certainly means more than it was a joyous evening. That has much more impact. And that's what you want to do. You want to have impact on the story. Humor is something that helps almost everything. Learn how to put a little bit of humor in there. It can be used to break the tension. I think everybody's seen the movie Jaws by Steven Spielberg. Terrifying. And I'll tell you, after that first scene, my thought at the time was, if it continues like this, I am out of here. I'm serious. I was ready to leave, but I couldn't. I was glued to my seat. But the humor, imagine that. Brody is pulling in the net, or he's throwing out chum, and the shark comes out, terrifying the audience. And he leans back. We got to get a bigger boat. Made us all laugh, broke the tension, but then Spielberg brought us right back into the tension to the point that if you heard humor, or at least I was that way, if I heard humor in the movie, I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go again at the top of the roller coaster, about to race to the bottom of fear. I've given you a couple pointers today on how to be a better storyteller. And why? Because you can use it anywhere, to anybody, any place. If you've got a presentation to give at a brand new company to a bunch of CEOs and CFOs, you can make that presentation your story. Those are your facts. Those are your charts. That's your video. Tell them your story. Remember that? And now, go out and entertain somebody.